Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first edition of the Roundup. We're glad to have you with us. I'm Griff McClellan. Today, I'm pleased to welcome guests Parker Summers and Nathan Shell. Guys, let's dive into it. There's a lot to discuss, obviously. Let's start by discussing Week 1 of the NFL season. What are your initial reactions? What outcomes surprised you most?
Go ahead, Parker.
Well, I wouldn't say it surprised me, but I'm going to say the Bills look unstoppable this season. I mean, Josh Allen leading the way. They got Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs on that defense, and they don't even have Tre'Davious White yet, and they absolutely shut down the Rams.
Absolutely. They made a statement on opening night, defeating the defending champions. And honestly, if you ask me, the Buffalo Bills can beat anybody. If you can beat the defending champion Rams, they look like the team to beat in the AFC. And I will say they were my preseason pick to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. So, Nathan, what do you have to say about the Buffalo Bills, who are undoubtedly AFC favorites at the moment?
Yeah, and I would agree with what a lot of people are saying about the Bills. I think they're for real. I think they have a chip on their shoulder from that loss to the Chiefs that was pretty much uncontrollable. They played fantastic football in a playoff game and still came up short. And, I mean, they took it out on the defending champs, absolutely just destroying them. And I think the Bills will at least, I'd say floor, they'll win 12 games this season. And I think, yes, they will win the AFC, represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, and I don't think it's far-fetched to say they'll take it home.
I don't think so either. I will admit I've been a lifelong Bills fan. I'm not going to be biased on this show, obviously, but I've never been more confident in believing that the Bills are AFC favorites going into a season. So I agree. It's definitely an exciting year for Buffalo Bills fans. And how about you, Parker? As I see you're a Broncos fan.
I am.
What are your initial thoughts on them this season? What are your expectations?
Well, I'm expecting Jerry Jeudy to take a big jump this year. Last season, he was first in target separation, but 73rd in target accuracy. So I'm hoping with Russell Wilson here, I expect him to take a big jump and be targeted more, especially with Cortland Sutton. You know, he's that big play receiver downfield, and you got Javonte Williams. But it's going to be no easy task. You got the Chargers defense who brought in Khalil Mack, and they got Joey Bosa as well. They also have J.C. Jackson on the back end. Then you can't ever count the Chiefs out of anything. So I think it's going to be a tough battle in the AFC West, but I'm hoping we can pull through.
I agree, and I have to say the AFC West this year has got to be the most stacked division in NFL history. You have, obviously, the 7-time defending champion Kansas City Chiefs, who you can never doubt out with Patrick Mahomes as quarterback. They've represented the AFC in the Super Bowl twice since he took over, winning one of them. You have the LA Chargers, who, as you mentioned, acquired Khalil Mack and J.C. Jackson to bolster their defense, as well as exciting young quarterback Justin Herbert. And, of course, the Denver Broncos, as I'm sure you're psyched about, acquired an elite quarterback for the first time since Peyton Manning back in the early 2010s.
Yeah.
They have Russell Wilson. That's pretty exciting. And, of course, you have the Las Vegas Raiders, who acquired Devontae Adams in the offseason to pair with Derek Carr, who were both college teammates and put up electric stats together. So what are your thoughts on the AFC West, and who do you think is going to come out on top?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, like everyone was kind of talking about the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Broncos just throwing money everywhere, bringing in big names. And everyone was kind of saying to themselves, I mean, Tyreek Hill's gone with the Chiefs. They might experience a significant backslide. I would go and say that we got to, just trust in recent history. My favorite for the AFC West, I'm not going to count the Chiefs out of winning that division, despite all the chaos that has happened with different acquisitions in the AFC West. I think it is easily the best division in football. And I'm going to play it safe, say the Chiefs come out of that division, the victors, with a 13-4 record.
Okay, that's pretty bold. I will say I thought the Chiefs' offense was going to take a hit with the loss of Tyreek Hill, as you mentioned. Mm-hmm. But yesterday they looked pretty impressive, putting up 44 on the road against Arizona. As you said, we can't rule them out. They should be the favorites, and rightfully so.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's going to be an awesome test for the Chiefs. They actually play AFC rival opponent, the Chargers, on Thursday Night Football for a national audience to see. So, I mean, we're going to find out a lot about these two teams, different holes, different areas that they thrive in just 3 to 4 short days.
I actually saw a point on the Chiefs, and I kind of agree with it. when you were looking at the Chiefs, Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill were their main weapons, but now you don't really know where they're going to go. They have a ton of different solid receivers that they could go to at any time. They got Juju, MVS, Mecole Hardman. I think that offense is dangerous, and you can't always count on them just going to Tyreek Hill for the deep bomb.
That is very true. And that being said, Tyreek Hill did have an impressive showing in Week 1 as Miami completely shut down the New England Patriots. Tyreek Hill had a pretty impressive day. He had a touchdown, which he had to kind of jump over the defender to get, but as the pass was underthrown by Tua Tagovailoa. But regardless, he still had an incredible outing in his hometown, Miami.
Totally agreed. Yeah, I think they have a good 1-2 punch in Waddle and Hill there. I don't think Tua is an excellent quarterback, but with weapons like that, I think Miami could definitely be a playoff team. But something else, like how about some wild finishes in Week 1? Right out the gates, we just saw some very close games. We even saw a tie between the Texans and Colts. But something else I wanted to kind of cover was how about Baker's game against his former team, the Cleveland Browns, as a new member of the Carolina Panthers?
Indeed, that definitely made Week 1 headlines, and kudos to the Cleveland Browns for winning their first season opener since 2004.
Wow.
I recently saw that they tweeted 1-0. Twitter did not come out until 2006, so this is the first time they can ever tweet 1-0. Just pretty,
Man.
a pretty significant milestone for that franchise, I guess.
Yeah.
But regardless, they had an impressive game. They put up a better first half. In the end, we had multiple lead changes between the two teams, but Cleveland hitting a 58-yard field goal in the end to basically ice the game was very impressive.
Am I correct that that was a rookie kicker who kicked that as well?
Yes.
Wow. What a what a welcome to the NFL for the youngster. That's incredible.
Yeah, I'd say that's quite the debut. Yep, that'll be an incredible memory for the rest of his life.
But yeah, I think the game of the week in terms of just how crazy it was this Pittsburgh Steelers Cincinnati Bengals game. Parker, you have any thoughts on that one?
I mean, there was something in the water. I mean, we saw a ton of missed kicks this week, and even in college, but especially in this game, there were, I believe, 3 field goals that weren't missed. McPherson had an opportunity to make the extra point, and that was blocked by Minkah Fitzpatrick. Then I believe the Steelers were able to try and kick an extra point, and I believe Boswell missed it. And then McPherson missed it again on a bad snap, albeit. And then finally Boswell did make it to finish that game. But, man, there were so many missed field goals this weekend.
Absolutely, and that was obviously one of the more exciting games this weekend. There were many, but that one really stands out considering how close it was down the stretch. It nearly ended in a tie, just like Indianapolis and Houston did.
Yeah.
But like you all said, it came down to the kickers. There were a bunch of missed kicks, and ultimately Pittsburgh won. But with that, they also potentially could lose T.J. Watt for some significant time. It's been rumored that he has a torn pectoral muscle. They haven't officially confirmed that yet, but he could miss some time. So it's a win for the Steelers in Week 1, but they may lose even bigger.
Correct, yeah, and it's a huge divisional win as well. Joe Burrow kind of was shocking with the 5 turnovers. Definitely not Super Bowl Joe Burrow, but yeah, man alive. Like, I think to myself so often, like, there's 32 NFL teams, and out of the billions of people in this world, we can't find 32 individuals who are going to consistently make field goals. It's just beyond me. But, I mean, it adds some flavor to these end-of-game scenarios, which I think is really interesting. But how about some players with new teams? Like, we've seen the faces, but they're at new rosters.
Absolutely. There's a lot. We'll have to discuss it in just a few minutes. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Stay tuned. We have a lot more to discuss.
Ace in the Bowl salsa started many, many years ago. I was trying to find a recipe to take to a family gathering, and so I started messing around with different recipes, and I took a little bit from here and a little bit from there, and I came up with a salsa that is truly unique. Ace in the Bowl salsa is an olive oil-based salsa with tomatoes, green chilies, green onions, and black olives. There's no sugar added, it's gluten-free, low calorie, low carb, low fat, low sodium. So it's a very, very, very good alternative to any snack you may want. As of right now, I'm just looking to be in Oklahoma and having a successful business within the state. If my grandkids could ever take it over when they're old enough, that would be my dream.
I'm Kristen Hawkins. I went to Oklahoma State University here in Stillwater in '99 to 2004. I've always felt like Stillwater needed more family-friendly things to do, and we have opened up AR Workshop. We do everything from knitting blankets that can be done in a 3-hour class. We create doormats and porch signs, the Christmas wreaths with our yarn that we use for the blankets. We also do, we just started a new project for gnomes. We've done pumpkins during the fall, but our big thing that we do here are interior signs. Our designs are extremely unique to AR Workshop. Customers come in, everything is here for them to do. They create everything. They can be as hands-on as they want. They came in here to relax and have fun, and that they are proud of their project that they've made.
We use the very best of the best ingredients. Demerara sugar is the best that is. Very high quality fruits, berries. The milk we use is the best milk there is. That's why it makes our product stand by itself. I like to make yogurt because I like to eat yogurt. We've been doing this for ourselves for many years because it's a tradition in our family. And we want to have a product which would be very similar to French yogurt, but with our touch of uniqueness, linking our name, our product, with the reputation of the Made in Oklahoma Coalition was probably the best thing we have done as far as promoting our product.
Welcome back to the roundup. Let's continue. What would you say is your biggest disappointment from week one? Which team or player did not live up to your expectations?
I can kick us off with this one. I just recall week one of last year, Aaron Rodgers at the Saints. He put up a goose egg against that Saints roster, and history repeated itself. Against a divisional rival, the Minnesota Vikings, he once again mightily struggled. Granted, he didn't have Devontae Adams by his side anymore. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, we don't exactly know what we're going to get out of him on a week-by-week basis anymore. Very disappointed with his performance, but I would not put him past. I would not put it past him to bounce back and lead that team to some victories.
Rodgers is, simply put, one of the greatest and most clutch quarterbacks to ever play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he only has one ring to show for that success. But I do agree with you. His week one performance against Minnesota was disappointing. Given that they only scored 7 points, and Minnesota's defense just completely took over and dominated. Not to mention Justin Jefferson's heroic performance on offense, receiving 2 touchdowns, going for 184 yards. He was off the charts, insane. But back to Rodgers, I agree. He had a disappointing week one, but I can see him rebounding and coming back from this loss.
For sure.
How about you, Parker? What stood out to you?
You know, I'm going to be a cop-out here. I think the Bengals, they were the most disappointing team. You know, high expectations. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase going into his second year. I mean, that receiving core, very, very good with Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. And, you know, it might just be the Super Bowl hangover, but they did not look great whatsoever against the Steelers. I think they're lucky that the game was as close as it was, especially after Joe Burrow's 4 interceptions.
I agree. And to close this discussion, I think the biggest disappointment, at least in my opinion, it has to be the Dallas Cowboys, producing only 3 points. Granted, it was against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, which has been solid for a handful of years now. But they could have displayed a much, much better offensive performance. Obviously, they struck early, didn't really produce much after that. And now that Dak Prescott is going down with a hand injury, set to have surgery and going to miss 6 to 8 weeks, that's really going to set Dallas back. And I almost picked Dallas to take the NFC East going into the season. I'm glad I didn't. I said Philadelphia, which is looking pretty good after week 1. Of course, we have a long way to go. It's a really big season, of course. But Dallas had a really bad night last night. They were disappointing for many Cowboy fans around here. But going forward, I think it's safe to say they're definitely facing some adversity right now, and I don't think we can expect big things from the Cowboys at the moment.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys at max, I think they'll finish that division last. I really do. Dak's injury, multiple receivers being out. I do not think they're going to be back this season. And all those Cowboys fans who say they'll be back every year are going to have to wait for another season. But how about college football? College football gave us another just incredible week. Tons of upsets. We saw the Oklahoma State Cowboys also get a victory against a Power 5 opponent. What did you see from that Arizona State game, Griff?
Well, obviously we started slow. We just weren't able to get or gain any momentum on offense, which didn't turn out to be that consequential. We ended up producing a bunch of great scores, and Spencer Sanders went off for 2 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing, 268 passing yards. Dominic Richardson had a phenomenal night as well, as did wide receiver Bryson Green. So I think going forward, we are a pretty solid team. We have yet to play in the Big 12. Our first Big 12 game is, I believe, Week 5 against Baylor on the road. That'll be our first real test, given that we can't forget that Baylor lost this weekend too in an upset loss to BYU. But again, that's going to be our real first test. And so far, we're 2-0. A win is a win. So I'm going to take it. I'm impressed. But really, like any season, we got a long way to go.
For sure. Parker, what do you think? Are you, as an Oklahoma State fan, pretty content with where the Cowboys are? Are you concerned in a lot of areas?
I'm not really content. I think there's a game that can be played way better. I think Spencer Sanders, first and foremost, he needs to take care of the football. You can't be throwing interceptions out there. You got to take care of the football. But I do like Spencer Sanders. I'm happy that he's able to make plays with his legs and through the air. And then the defense, I think Tyler Lacey, he played phenomenal. So I'm happy with. I'm not happy, but I think with improvements throughout the season, I think you get the rust. You're getting the rust off. So I think the rust will be off by the time we play Baylor.
Agreed. Well, again, it's a long season. We got a lot to prove. We came very, very close to winning the Big 12 last season, as we all sadly remember. But we can definitely hang with Baylor, and I think any Big 12 team. OU will be a major test later on this season. Aside from that, right now I believe we're competitive enough to hang with anybody.
Yeah, I mean, we have one more game, a non-conference against Arkansas Pine Bluff to just kind of get last bit of rust off. But then, I mean, we get the bye week early, and then it is week after week of Big 12 foes, and we're going to see what we're made of. I think the Big 12's wide open. I think 5 to 6 different teams could very well emerge with that conference. So it's going to be interesting to see how this next 2 months or so plays out.
Real quick, does Texas appear in that list for you?
Yes, they do.
After their result this past weekend against Alabama, they came close. They nearly lost.
I don't know if they are exactly on the list with their starting quarterback going to miss significant time, but I was thoroughly impressed with their defensive performance, just having the number 1 team in the nation on the ropes in Alabama.
Absolutely. People always say Texas is back. I'm not sure whether I fully buy into that or not, but they certainly proved they can hang with the Heisman winner and the number 1 overall team, the Crimson Tide. So it'll definitely be an exciting season going forward, and there's so many headlines to keep track of.
For sure. I think Texas very well could have run away and won that game. We saw multiple plays, but I think they could definitely win the conference.
All right, well, we're going to take another quick commercial break. We'll be back shortly.
We would design something, it was set on the counter, and people was either, if enough of them said, this isn't it never made to the line. Dad was excited that they're all original. They were all designed on Mom's kitchen table, and it gets in your blood after a while.
We're very happy that Pamela and Michael have taken over the business and kept the family going.
We took the business over in 2017. When we found that it was available, we wanted to keep the legacy of family alive, but it was also incredible products that deserved to be a part of Made in Oklahoma's story. We were a part of Made in Oklahoma years ago, and so it kind of grew as Made in Oklahoma grew.
Oklahoma is ingrained into everything that we did. We've been here most of our life. That's what we entailed our whole business on, was the Oklahoma homegrown feeling.
A Golf Digest 5-star course, best new public course won an Open in 1994, and a top 100 public golf course in America since 2003. This course, just 5 miles outside of Stillwater, Oklahoma on Highway 51, is named after one of the influential golf pioneers this game has known.
Karsten Creek.
Karsten Creek.
Karsten Creek.
Karsten Creek.
Karsten Creek's a modern golf course.
The beauty of the course is in large part to the elements of the grounds. The Georgia fairways transformed from its original forested landscape. Georgia was used to combat the tough winters so golfers could play year-round. The greens are large and sloping bent grass hills. The low-cut bent grass can be similar to glass during peak championship conditions. The bunkers surrounding most holes remind golfers of a white beach rather than a deep hazard. Lake Louise, surrounded by the second 9, completes the perfect finishing hole. The long par 72 course perfectly combines nature with the difficulty of a championship course. Karsten's added challenge is the Oklahoma wind.
So there aren't any other schools in the country that have that same commitment to college golf as we do here at Oklahoma State.
But if you're going to play at the highest level, you've got to be able to focus on where you want to go, and Karsten Creek does a good job of training you to do that, because if you don't, you're going to have a long day. And that's a great legacy that Coach Holder left, because that's the way he coached.
Hello everyone, welcome back. Let's continue discussing this past really fascinating week about college football. As we all know, a bunch of top 10 teams went down. Which upset really stood out to you? Which one caught your eye most?
I think the one that caught my eye the most is the App State over Texas A&M. I mean, you think about Texas A&M, I believe they had one of the top recruiting classes this past season, and then App State comes in, they pay them like what, $1 million to play them, and they get smoked at home. I mean, that's not a great look if you're Texas A&M. So App State will take the money and they'll take the victory. But yeah, what about you?
Well, to add on to what you said, first, Appalachian State has a history of big upsets dating back to 2007 when they took down Michigan up in Ann Arbor. This is not the first time we've seen this from Appalachian State. But I agree, that one was really shocking. I don't think many people saw that coming. Another one that really caught my eye was Marshall defeating Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman, I guess now the new coach of Notre Dame, is 0-3 to begin his stint with Notre Dame, dating back to the start of this calendar year, losing in the Fiesta Bowl after leading by 21 points to our very own OSU Cowboys.
Yeah.
And, of course, to open this season, Ohio State. Now, those two teams are very good, top 10 teams, generally. So those are acceptable losses, I guess we can put it. But to lose at home against Marshall is unprecedented, and I don't think any of us saw that one coming.
Totally unexpected. Notre Dame was very high in the initial rankings. It seems like the AP poll is infatuated with Notre Dame. And for what reason? I mean, they held their own versus Ohio State, who I'm not sure is for real. They could be pretenders. But, yeah, I don't think Notre Dame has been an elite team dating back to the Manti Te'o girlfriend myth being debunked. But one more upset I want to cover is a game that lasted deep into the morning. I believe 2 in the morning for people on the East Coast. Baylor versus BYU out in Utah. Yeah. How did you stay up for that one, Parker?
You know, I did. I have a friend who goes to BYU, so I was watching the game, And I know it's technically classified as an upset. I'm not huge on calling this one an upset. They're both top 25 teams, and after 1 week, you're kind of basing it off last year as well. But yeah, man, that one was crazy. We talked about the missed kicks earlier in the show, and BYU had a chance to win the game twice, and their kicker just couldn't make a field goal. So they went into second overtime. They scored a touchdown, and then they stopped Baylor, and they took the game. Yeah.
Absolutely. To put it mildly, it was definitely a crazy week of college football with so many unexpected upsets.
For sure. Yeah, and we got our first field storm of the season with the BYU Cougar fans just absolutely rushing that stadium. But another sport that has kind of caught my eye as we transition into a very important month for it in October. What's going on with the MLB, Griff?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked. There are a bunch of headlines, obviously. Most notably, Albert Pujols, MLB legend. It currently sits at 697 career home runs. With a little less than a month remaining in the current MLB season, he has 20 games to hit 3 more home runs to join a rare, exclusive club. That's the 700 home run club. Only 3 other members, Barry Bonds, Hank Aaron, and Babe Ruth, belong in that club. And, of course, Pujols recently surpassed A-Rod for 4th most all time. So Pujols definitely has a really exciting end of the season ahead of him, and the Cardinals sit atop the National League Central. They'll be postseason favorites. But speaking of postseason favorites, the Dodgers are by far the best team in baseball at the moment. They currently sit at 96-43. I think it's safe to say they'll make the World Series. They are a very, very strong team. They're loaded with talent and depth. My one concern about LA, however, is their history in the postseason. Granted, they did win the 2020 World Series. However, that was during the shortened 60-game COVID season. Does that count as a real title? I'm not sure. But I think if they're going to win it, this is their year. Some teams could stand in their way, such as the Astros, maybe the Cardinals, maybe the Yankees. We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers' margin of victories just in recent games have been crazy. Their pitching is there. That's something you need come the postseason. If you don't have pitching, it's going to be exposed, and you're going to get out in the wild card and at latest the divisional series. So I think the Dodgers are definitely legit. I do think anything can happen in the playoffs, though. I mean, it's October. It's crazy. I think teams like the Cardinals, as we kind of addressed with Albert Pujols, with Goldschmidt, and also Arenado, if they get hot, I mean, they're a dangerous team. But, yeah, what about on the Albert Pujols topic, do you think he'll get to 700?
I think so. Obviously, he has 20 games to do it. They got the postseason. I think he will reach that milestone in his final season.
Very cool. And what about the AL side? Who do you think's going to do you have any favorites, Parker, for who's going to make the World Series on the American League side?
Not really. I think it's probably going to be the Yankees. I think with Aaron Judge, how many home runs he's hitting, he's gonna lead them there. And I don't think my Rockies will be posing any threat to the Dodgers this season.
Well, there's certainly a lot to look forward to. We can't obviously fit it all into this one discussion, but there's certainly a lot to leave on the table going forward. So thank you all for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Of course.
Thanks so much, Griff.
Anytime. Thank you. That will do it for today's episode. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. You can support and view our content by visiting YouTube, Roku TV, as well as social media by visiting Okali TV. So please stay tuned. And I'd like to give a huge shout out to our production crew as well, without whom this show would not be possible. So thank you all. For the roundup, I'm Griff McClellan. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week.
Pecans are staple to Oklahoma. In fact, many of our native pecans come from trees that are older than Oklahoma statehood.
My father's the one that got us started into the pecan picking. I was probably 10 or 12 years old, and we started off with one little mechanical picker that you pulled behind a four-wheeler. Then we'd go home at night and we'd clean them on a TV tray. I guess watching my dad work hard when we were young, and people started trusting him and getting more and more groves, we just kept growing.
Being a relatively new and fresh company, we get to sit in the same room with people who have been a part of the Oklahoma economy for decades.
It's opened a lot of doors. It's gave us quite a bit of exposure, and I think people, will take a small company like us a little more serious. We're just going to continue growing as long as our community lets us and our customers keep on buying, and we'll see where it takes us.
Over the years, we kind of realized that you can get ribs anywhere, you can get a steak anywhere, but you can't always get a Mountain View hot link like ours. So we really decided to focus on that niche and realized we had something really special. So that's when we started focusing more on the hot links, but it's still the same family recipe they were making all those years ago. For us, many of our people that work here have been with us for years and decades. So whereas machines kind of break down over time, the people just get better. And it shows in the products we produce. When you buy a Mountain View product, not only is it going to taste dynamite, but you're also feeding Oklahomans. You're helping employ Oklahomans, and you're helping to fund the state's economy. So what's better than that?
Are when folks drink our water is that they'll drink it for a few days and find out the difference. They'll start feeling better because there's been no chemical in our water. There's a list of good things that we have. We don't have any bad things in it. I see the future of Divine Water as being worldwide, which will bring outside dollars into the state. It means a lot to me because I started it, I guess, and our family started it.